Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of your very favourite funeral based podcast, Not If But When. My name is Kirsty Atherton. I work as an independent celebrant and I work across the northwest of England.
And my name's Lindsay Conquest. I'm also an independent celebrant and I am based in Bedfordshire.
Which
Okay.
you are. Be
Yeah.
nice if you weren't. Be nice if we were closer together,
Oh,
but
wouldn't it? I know we're
wouldn't it?
too far away, but never
We
mind.
are. Yeah.
Never mind. And on the note of today's subject, too far to drive to stay eco and green, and I couldn't come and see you every day. That wouldn't be very
That was
carbon
so beautifully
footprint.
done. Well done, you, because today indeed we are. We're talking about green funerals. So we're not just talking about natural burial grounds and going all earth and hippie like I'm going to do when it's my time. We're talking about little tiny things that everybody can do that will just reduce the impact of some of the choices that we make around funerals. So obviously the most green thing that you can do is have a natural burial. What do you think about natural burials, Linz?
I love natural burials.
I love them too.
I just think that they sort of I think they're beautiful. I think I'm really lucky to have a couple of sort of venues near me that are really lovely. I think
Yeah.
there's differences, aren't there, between natural burial sites, and some are literally just a field and some have been
Yeah.
able to mature and have got, the trees have matured and they're lovely settings, or you might have streams or it's
Mm,
beautiful. I love doing the services. I love sort of using like different wording and incorporating nature and having
yeah.
rose petals, and I just like the feel of them.
It's a whole
Um,
different feel, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and I love that, you can have trees planted in people's memories and things like that, rather than your traditional sort of your headstone or your crosses, that you can choose and plant a tree in their memory. So yeah, for me, I really like them. Yeah.
Big fan. Yeah. Yeah, they do. They just have a totally different vibe, don't they? For me, they have I just really like that. And I know this is something that makes other people really uncomfortable. So I have this conversation with my daughter and she's like, yeah, mummy, that comforts you. It doesn't comfort most normal people. I really like the idea of when my breathing has ended. I really like the idea of decaying and rotting back into the earth. I really find that extremely comforting. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that's like their absolute worst
Mm.
nightmare. And and I'm not somebody who, whilst I am breathing, would be happy to be like covered in worms and things like that. But
Are you sure?
yeah, pretty sure. Yeah. If they ever do like I'm a funeral celebrant, get me out of here, I will not be volunteering for that. Very much not for me. But I really like that thought of, I find it really cozy and reassuring. And yeah, so but it's not all just about the natural burial,
No,
is it?
no.
I mean, I know you and I have both discussed this before as well, because natural burial grounds are fewer and further between, and some areas are brilliantly served by them and some less so, depending on where you are in the country. I think the most recent figure that I read, I don't know whether this is up to date, was that there are now about 300 across the country. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you.
No.
Um, yeah, so there are options, but there are certainly areas where they are more concentrated than others. Um, and that is one of the considerations, isn't it, that we've discussed. A natural burial ground can be really, absolutely, can be completely, virtually carbon neutral, in the sense that a lot of them do offer things like hand dug graves. So you're not even using, um, fossil fuels to
Yeah.
actually sort of dig the grave with, even. But if your nearest one, or the one that you're particularly attracted to, is 30 miles from your home, and your loved ones are going to want to come and spend time there, and it's a 60-mile round trip once a week to do it, it's not as green in that sense. And it's
No.
just about, I think, if you are interested in making greener choices, actually looking at it as like holistically as you can, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, because that's a big impact, isn't it, if you're
Yes,
driving back and
yeah,
two?
definitely a consideration to, yeah, to have is that, you, yeah, choose a natural burial site, but also consider how far it is, how many people will be traveling there on the day for the service itself, and
Yeah.
how often you would want to travel there to,
Yeah.
just to sit and be there and enjoy the space where
Yeah.
your loved one's
Yeah.
resting. So,
The
yeah.
first time I ever went to visit a natural burial ground, which is when we were training, I actually got talking. I get talking to anybody wherever I am. It's us Northerners, we can't not do it. It just feels rude not to start a conversation. I was talking to a man there, and whilst I was waiting for the owner to come and meet me, and since he'd lost his wife, which I think had been 8 or 9 months, I think he said, he literally goes every single day and
Oh,
he sits there, and there was a group of them. Actually, there were a group of elderly men who had all lost their wives within a couple of months of each other, and pretty much just went every morning, and they sat on their little fold out camping chairs, which was the cutest thing
oh,
ever, and they'd have a little sit, and they'd read the book or they'd read the paper, have a little chat with each other. It was like a little sort of social gathering.
uh,
He was from the village where this burial ground is, so he just used to walk there in the morning. um but yeah, that because of the nature of them, they're obviously not well served
yeah,
by public transport by and
yeah,
large, are they? Although
no,
if you are a natural burial ground and you are listening to this and you are serviced by public transport, that would be really interesting to know, actually, wouldn't it?
definitely. Yeah, let us
I
know,
think,
because it's something that, yeah, the local authorities need to sort of look into, and, providing sort of transport to these places and making them more accessible so more
yeah.
people can make use of that, and yeah,
Yeah, I think
them.
certainly as well in some of the larger towns and cities, outside some of the larger towns and cities, because the kind of like in town, in city cemeteries are getting really full, and
Yeah,
or are completely full,
yeah,
and that is an issue for people, isn't it?
yeah,
If
definitely.
your options are further away and you're perhaps elderly, don't drive anymore, or
Mhm.
are conscious about, your impact on the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's loads of things to consider, isn't there? So
yeah,
if we're not going natural burial, if we're just being if we're just being normal folk, um, we need to think about the ways in which there are little things that we could do
yeah,
to make things greener, I guess. So,
definitely. Yeah.
and you can do that with everything. I think you can do it with everything.
Yeah, I think so. I think well, I suppose, should we start with the embalming, which we've mentioned before on other
Yeah,
podcasts. So obviously you've got a choice over whether you have your loved one embalmed, or whether you're embalmed, if you want to put that in your funeral wishes. So that obviously does have an impact on the environment because of the chemicals that the process uses.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And worth noting that if you do want to opt for a natural burial, you would not be able to be embalmed because of the chemicals, and because they obviously would return to the soil in
yeah,
that sense.
yeah.
Um, I don't know whether are people aware that if they do chapel of rest, they need to do it. They need to have someone embalmed. I don't know if that's common knowledge, is it?
No, I don't know whether it is common knowledge, and I suppose the
Mm,
thing is, obviously, if you're seeing your loved one very close to the point that they've died, then
yeah,
you can see them, and embalming probably isn't needed, but it would need to
yeah,
be a very, very tight window, isn't there,
it is. Yeah,
for that really.
yeah,
Otherwise, the funeral director would definitely be recommending that if you want to do a chapel of rest visit and with an open coffin, that you would have
yeah,
your loved one embalmed.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I heard of a situation recently where there were a number of weeks between the death and the funeral, and family had come from another country and had only arrived the day before the funeral, and phoned the funeral director to see if they could come to chapel. And no, not
No.
at that point. Nature has taken its course. And
Yeah,
yeah, so that's something that's worth thinking about, isn't it?
yeah,
Chapel arrest, we've had these conversations before, are really important to some people and less so to others. And if greener choices are particularly of interest to you, that's a really easy one, isn't it?
yeah,
Just not
yeah,
not to do that. Yeah.
definitely. And then following that, it's everything, like we've just said, from flowers. Shall we talk flowers? There are definitely
Yeah.
options with that.
There absolutely are. And I
Yeah,
love how people seem to be really thinking outside the box a bit more with flowers now. I think it's brilliant.
yeah,
I suppose the greenest thing you can possibly do is to pick some things out of your own garden, some
yeah,
foliage or whatever,
yeah,
or if you've got a beautiful garden of flowers, and actually use those. There's no transportation costs
yeah,
because you're getting them out of the garden.
yeah,
And they can look really lovely actually
yeah.
as well. Um,
Yeah, and you could even if you wanted, if your loved one had an amazing garden, or you've got a garden and you want to pick some flowers and they've got some really nice choices, you could still take those to a local florist and ask them to do something with those
yeah,
if
of
you want.
course, yeah,
And we've got
yeah.
a local florist to us, which I'm sure you've got some near you as well, that specifically work on green bases. So they make their own bases with
Oh, brilliant.
eco string, so biodegradable string, moss. They don't buy any floral frames. Can't say that. That's a tongue twister.
That is a bit
Floral
tricky, yeah.
frames. No plastic.
Oh,
All of the
amazing.
attributes are made like they literally painstakingly stand there and make the bases out of moss and biodegradable
Amazing.
string, and they are stunning, their work. And
How lovely.
yeah, so it's about asking those questions if it's important to you.
Mm,
And I suppose really
absolutely.
it should be becoming more important to all of us to just be that
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit greener where we can, little choices and little changes we can make. So yeah,
Yeah.
flowers are definitely somewhere
Yeah.
that, and I know
And
you found somewhere that hired
yeah,
uh
oh, loads of places do
yeah,
it round here.
yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say at that point, the other option is if you've got a really beautiful garden that the person who's died has really appreciated, or it was their garden, have the funeral in the garden.
definitely have it
Then
in
you could
their
be
garden.
surrounded by the flowers as they're
Don't
actually
need, yeah,
growing.
that's it. You don't need to buy any flowers then, do you?
Even
Because you've got
better.
the environment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we've got quite a few different options around here, actually. There are a number of places who hire displays,
Right.
and they're really beautiful. They're really good.
Mm.
There is a funeral director that I do work with, and they have some that they hire themselves, which is fabulous. I know a lady local to me who makes faux flower arrangements that she then will take back after the funeral and
Oh,
will
right.
break up and make into different arrangements for
Oh,
people to
that's
keep.
good.
Yeah, she particularly makes them into door wreaths because loads of people have a wreath on the door now,
Yeah,
don't they? Like all the
yeah,
way through the year for
yeah,
different seasons. So yeah, that's a really nice idea. So yeah, I think the days of loads and loads and loads of flowers just rotting in their plastic on a floral terrace are getting less, but
yeah.
not less enough, perhaps.
No,
So that's something well worth thinking about, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
What next?
Well, something else I've just actually literally has just popped into my head is orders of service. I
Mhm.
I I find orders of service intriguing. I don't know whether you have this experience where very often, if a family are choosing to do their own, so an order of service, sorry, just to explain, is that little usually piece of A4 folded into an A5 um, piece of card, thin card, which has a photograph of the person on the front and various little bits of information. Um, there used to be really a bit of a no-brainer, didn't they? Everybody
Yeah,
had them. Less so now, I would say, although they are still really popular. Um, and very often I have it where, like, if a family are doing their own, I might, by the time I go and see them, they might say to me, "We've done the order of service." And I think, well,
yeah,
how have you done the order of service? Because we haven't discussed what the order of the service is.
yes,
That's what
yeah,
I'm here for.
yeah,
So, and what they mean is we've put some lovely photographs together and a poem and, to share with people. So to call them an order of service now, they're not always an order of
no,
service, are they
no,
really? They're
no,
just, you know, so I know that there are lots of places now where you can have an online order of service, where
yeah,
you can even have, a QR code where and the
yeah,
order of service is there. So you're not invested in the printing costs and in the use of the paper. I don't know how I particularly feel about that. So even though I'm the person who bangs the drum for the green stuff all the while. I think there's something to be said for some kind of little keepsake.
Yeah.
I know we've discussed these before. Previously, a few people I've done funerals for have had bookmarks
Yeah.
rather than orders of service. So people do tend to then take them home and use them rather
Yeah.
than just stick them in a drawer for somebody in years to come just to throw away.
Yeah.
Um, I am still quite old school in the fact that I do all my notes and print all my services on paper,
Yeah.
and the amount of paper I use is not a very green thing.
Mm.
Um, but I am not at the point where I am comfortable with the tech
Make that
that
move.
would replace that. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do drive an electric car,
Well,
so
there you
swings and
go.
roundabouts.
Balances it out,
Yeah.
balances it out. Yeah. So I really like to have something, not necessarily an order of service specifically, but like you, I think it's nice to have something to remember them by. Some families give out packets of seeds that they've printed with the person's
Yeah, that's
favorite little
nice.
verse or just a photo on. So, there's that option as well. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're actually strictly necessary. Well, they're not strictly necessary, are they, anymore? They're clearly not anyway, because not everybody has them.
Mhm.
But it's just thinking about all those little things that we take as as expected because they've just
Yeah.
always been
Yeah.
done. And why are we still doing them if they, if you're not doing that to give the order of service to
Yeah.
everybody, then what's the point really,
Yeah.
but that's a kind of personal thing. I
Mhm.
suppose in terms of that as well, the other big choice really is transport, isn't it? um
Definitely.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked before about, you don't need to have a hearse and those types of things. I
Yeah.
think most people probably still do feel that a hearse of some description is appropriate.
Yeah.
But the choice there then, I guess, is limos, isn't it? Is cars for
Yeah,
family.
whether you need those extra cars for the family
Yeah.
and sometimes as well just for everyone traveling, you find most people are coming to the same, they're coming to the crematorium or the cemetery for that service. They're nearly always all going back to the wake afterwards in the same venue. So it's maybe about being conscious about that. Can you car share? Do
Yeah.
you all need to be coming in separate cars? And then yeah, do you need those limos? I know some
Yeah.
funeral directors are going down the electric vehicle route,
Yeah,
anyway.
they're
I know
fancy.
Co-op definitely are.
Yes, they are.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but you're just little changes like that about thinking, well, we
Yeah.
travel with so and so, and why is
Mm.
what Uncle Bob driving himself with an empty car when he can fit in ours? Um,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
that, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
At the funeral I did this morning, as they had two limos, big family.
Mm,
And as they were getting into the limos, a slightly more extended part of the family I heard walking round to the other side of the crematorium to where the car park is,
mm,
saying, "Let's keep our eyes peeled. The minibus will be here." And I thought,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. The family were from a different area,
Mm,
not miles and miles away. But I thought, well, that's a really good
yeah.
idea. They'd all kind of just got one form of transport that they were all taking together,
Yeah.
and also parking at Krems
No.
sometimes. Oh
Can be
my days.
difficult, can't it? We're quite
Mm,
lucky at the main one that I use. There's loads of parking, but I've been to some that it's really limited, and you're not
yeah,
even allowed on site until sort of 10 minutes before the service starts because they just haven't got the parking for
10 to the hour.
yeah, 10 to the hour. Yes, yes, 10 to the hour.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I found that a couple of times with, the particularly huge crems. I'm thinking of one that I worked in that was on the Wirral, and one that I worked in not long ago that was in North Manchester.
Mm,
Um, they have got three chapels that are generally full all the
right.
time, So the parking at a place like that, I mean, they're huge, but
Yeah.
it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
It
a
is.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, what about the actual coffin that we use or that we choose or the
Yeah.
coffin shroud? vessels, whatever. So there's definitely
Vessels.
vessels.
So wrap people in newspaper, it's so much
Yes,
more eco.
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, I mean that there are options there, aren't there? We've spoken about this before about people assuming that a cardboard box is a greener option,
yeah,
which isn't. If you're going for a flame cremation, we've already had
yeah,
that conversation. Yeah, there are. Yeah, those coffins that are the kind of bog standard coffins that you are offered are not wood.
no, no.
Um,
They're
you know,
veneered, aren't they? They've sort of got a veneer,
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, and to be able to do those that make that veneer and protect that chipboard, there's all sorts of plastics and chemicals involved
yeah,
in that. I suppose less of an issue now in terms of the effect of that being cremated because of all the
yeah,
filtration systems and things.
yeah,
But yeah, just
yeah,
choices there again, really. Yeah, I hadn't had a funeral with a willow coffin for absolutely ages. And then I had one this week, and it really did make me kind of go, oh, there's just something, isn't there? There's just
yeah.
something about them.
I
They're
love
just,
them. I think they're beautiful, and I think,
yeah.
the especially when you sort of sometimes have sort of wildflowers weaved in, and
Oh,
yeah, really
yeah.
lovely. And
There's
you
something
can
really like
use them.
homely, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. And we often have sort of messages, like people write messages on little cards, and then you tie them with string into the willow, so you can make use of it
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, really, really nice option. They're beautiful, and you can have colours woven in. And I'm presuming that when you
Mm.
have the colours woven in, they're still done in a sort of eco-friendly. There must still be natural colouring, I would have thought.
You know what? That's interesting. I actually think that we should charge ourselves with actually finding that out.
Yeah.
I think because yeah, because you didn't used to be able to get coloured
No.
ones, but you can get ones now that are completely coloured or ones that are
Mm.
rainbow or yeah, that's interesting actually. I imagine same as you that they are natural. We
Yeah.
are galloping towards the National Funeral Exhibition though.
We are.
So we will be able to ask some people in person there.
Definitely. So we can, yeah, maybe look while we're there at sort of what greener options are available, and on display, and we can report back, can't we?
I'm looking forward to well, obviously I'm looking forward to it because
Excited.
it's the best day out ever, but also we get to
Yeah.
spend the actual day together
I
with each
know.
other in person.
I know.
Doesn't happen anywhere near often enough.
Great fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking
great
forward to
fun if
it.
you're slightly odd, and hopefully this year
Yeah,
somebody will let you have a go in one.
I know. I'm gonna take my sort of step stool so I can actually, get in.
It's all right. I'll give you a little hot chocolate if
Oh, thanks.
it's
Thanks.
fine. No,
That's
that's
great.
friendship, mate. Not a problem anytime. So I suppose really what we're saying today is just be mindful, isn't it? Don't just yeah, this is the pre-planning again, isn't it?
No,
Don't just in that moment think,
yeah,
oh God, I'll opt for this, and this, when you
yeah,
know for a fact that your granny was obsessed with recycling and be really, really cross with you
yeah,
if you weren't,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
in
it's
an
all that.
ideal world, we'd do all of these things, but
Oh, we would.
just making little changes now, just
Yeah.
looking at little things that you can do, it all makes a difference. To
Yeah, it
decrease
does.
it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And the more people make those choices, the more those choices become normalized
Yeah,
and the more other innovative products come on board and
yeah,
the big changes that hopefully are going to happen with flame cremation that's
yeah,
electricity from renewable sources rather than gas and
yeah,
and resumation
yeah,
and terramation and all that exciting stuff.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, well, she'll have to revisit this in the
We
future, no
will.
doubt.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, that
Okay.
was a nice short and sweet one for once, not like us.
I know it was,
I
yeah,
know.
short and sweet, but on an important topic. So hopefully opened your eyes. Next week what are we talking about, Cozy? Living funerals, I believe. We're going to have a little chat
We
about
are.
how we feel about that term. I think it's not necessarily living funerals themselves, but it's the term living funerals.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely is. Yeah, yeah.
So
So that'll
we
be quite an interesting
Yeah.
one, I think.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
would be good to have a chat. So there's a lot in the media about it at the moment as well. So
Mm,
that is our
yeah.
topic for next week.
Yeah, that was a nice little teaser there, wasn't it?
Yes,
Little, yeah,
yeah. So
little trailer.
until next week, um, just, yeah, thank you for listening. If you haven't
Yeah.
listened to all of our episodes yet, go back and have a listen and catch up. And then,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
all sorts of things we've discussed
there
and
is.
so many things to discuss in the future, really. We've got some little guest slots coming up
I know.
soon, which
Yeah.
is extremely exciting.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to sharing those with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say in the meantime, let us all embrace life whilst we embrace the inevitable. Why not?
Absolutely. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.